And first off, we just would like to ask the Inland Regional Center Board of Trustees if you could please write letters of opposition to SB 18, SCR 41, SB 426, and SB 382. SB 18 is the Bill of Rights for Children and Youth of California. Joint Committee, SB 18 was amended on Monday, April 3rd, 2017. SB 18 is now a bill that creates a joint committee of senators and assembly members and is tied to a resolution. This resolution, SCR 41, tied to SB 18, puts a resolution in statute. The bill would create until November 30th, 2024, the Joint Legislative Committee on Children and Youth with 18 members appointed by the Senate Committee on Rules and the Speaker of the Assembly, as specified. The bill would require the committee to develop California's promise to its children and youth, a framework for the care and welfare of children and youth in various contexts, including but not limited to health care, nutrition, homeless assistance, education, and foster care as specified. The bill would require the committee to consider an unspecified Senate concurrent resolution, which is SCR 41, the Bill of Rights for the Children and Youth of California. It is enacted and takes effect on or before January 1st, 2018 for purposes of developing the framework. SB 18 highlights who the committee will reach out to and consult in developing the framework for California's children and youth. Missing from this list of various special interests is any regard for the family and parents. By November 30th, 2020, in consultation with medical organizations involved in child health care, educational organizations and institutions, organizations in child development and welfare, and applicable state agencies and commissions. The committee shall develop a plan to implement the framework by January 1st, 2024. By November 30th, 2020, in consultation with experts and organizations in tax reform, academia, research institutes, business, labor, local government, the Franchise Tax Board, the State Board of Equalization, and applicable state agencies and commissions. The committee shall identify and propose comprehensive tax reform solutions to increase revenue, predictability, and ensure sufficiency of revenues adequate to support the implementation of the framework for presentation to the legislature and, if necessary, to the voters of California. SB 18 is filled with references to tax code rather than a focus on children. And so just to wrap things up, I do have a child who is a consumer at Inland Regional Center. I have 2 boys with autism. When I read this bill, the title itself sounds wonderful, but right off the bat, to me, this is government telling me how to parent my children. I have, again, 2 boys with autism. They are both completely different. And if you know the saying in the autism community, you meet one child with autism, you've only met one child with autism. Each child is different. And so when I read this bill, and it talks about, medical organizations and education and all that, again, this is why we have IEPs. Children have an individual style of learning. Right now, my oldest son, he's homeschooled. My little one is in public school. So if government's going to come up with research and talking to all these organizations, they're going to come up with a one-size-fits-all of how to parent, that doesn't stand right by me. I always say to myself, I am the CEO of my children's decisions. And the scary thing about this bill is it goes up to the age of 21. And I know a lot of parents of special needs children, we're in charge of our kids beyond 18 years old. So for, again, government to put something in writing saying that they're going to pretty much come up with this wonderful one-size-fits-all that goes up to the age of 21, I'm not okay with that. And I feel that this is a slippery slope, and it will just eventually, little by little, start taking away any kind of parental rights we have at this moment. So I urge you to look into the bill, and as I stated earlier, to please write letters of opposition. Thank you so much.
Hello, good evening, Board Trustees. I'm going to cover the concurrent resolution, the Senate concurrent resolution, which is SCR 41. It's tied to SB 18 now. The language that was previously introduced as the Bill of Rights for the Children and Youth in California in SB 18 was 7 sections of vague, open-ended wording. The wording was already troublesome. The LA Times editorial board agreed and wrote a piece on it titled "A Lofty and Troubling Proposed Bill of Rights for California Kids" on February 7, 2017. The draft given to us on March 13th went into greater detail for each of these 7 sections, and this language was even more troubling. SB 18 was amended and became a committee bill that tied a concurrent resolution at the time of unknown name and unknown bill number. The draft given to us on March 13th is now the concurrent resolution introduced in the evening on April 18th, 2017, SCR 41, titled "The Bill of Rights for the Children and Youth of California." These items below from SCR 41 are particularly troubling. This is not an exhaustive list of the numerous problems of SB 18 and SCR 41. Number 1I, remaining with a parent, legal guardian, or caregiver, except when authorities determine separation is in the best interest of the child. So this begs the question, what authorities and who decides? 3F, having parents, elected officials, and other adults consider the effect that decision-making will have on a child's care and community. Why are elected officials or other adults not in the child's life making decisions about a child's care? Adding the word community there at the end is troubling because it assumes that whatever's going on in the family's life, the child's life, needs to be tied with the best for the community. 5B, access to the educational services and supports necessary to support and accommodate the child's individual abilities and needs in the most inclusive environment possible, regardless of the student's level of need or ability. As Gabriella alluded to before, inclusion is wonderful, but children are not one size fits all. For some children, inclusion doesn't work for them. They need more intensive and individualized education. That's why they have an IEP. It's individualized. And an IPP. It's individualized. 7A, VI, other necessary healthcare, diagnostic services, treatments, and other measures, including medical or remedial services provided in the facility, a home, or other setting, recommended by a physician or other licensed practitioner of the healing arts within the scope of his or her practice under state law for the maximum reduction of physical or mental disability to correct or ameliorate defects in physical and mental illness and conditions discovered by the screening services described in this paragraph to support an individual in achieving his or her best possible functional level. So to put this piece into perspective, if a child has a physician recommending medication to ameliorate the condition of ADD or another kind of special needs, and the parent wishes to use natural medicine, or it's even in many cases a cultural thing. There are many, especially like in the Hispanic culture, there are many Hispanic culture people that will use alternative medicine for things rather than pharmaceutical medication. But once again, the state would be deciding that you need to listen to the physician who's saying to use whatever pharmaceutical medication intervention as opposed to whatever the family wants to do for their child. The right to live in a safe and healthy environment is under number 2. A, living in an environmentally and physically safe and stable home. E, living in neighborhoods and communities that are physically safe. This kind of points the finger of blame towards families that are living in poverty. You might not be able to guarantee that the neighborhood you live in is the safest neighborhood, and so it's the state, through this legislation, blaming families that are in a poverty situation for their situation. Because it's saying that your child has a right to live in a neighborhood that's safe. So, the right to a healthy environment. Does this mean that families, and we already kind of covered that, need to make sure that they don't take medication and no room for alternative treatments? I wanted to skip over to the other bill that we wanted to cover. And Marilyn's going to speak on 382. SB 426, just very briefly, is a community-based home visitation pilot program, and it's using volunteers through AmeriCorps in order to come out and do home visiting. And it's kind of a way for the state government to put surveillance into every home. It takes away the practice from public health nurses doing this and other professionals to community volunteers doing it with likely no medical training and abuse. And where we're really concerned as far as being special needs parents is they may interpret parental intricacies for child abuse, especially among families who have children with special needs. So that's really where our concerns and where we're hoping that Regional Center steps in and the board agrees to, write a letter of opposition to this particular bill too. And we'll be providing more information to you, but Marilyn's going to go next.
Marilyn Natarian. I have 3 daughters. The Regional Center, they have autism. Their ages are 13 and 9. So I'm here to talk about SB 382. And this is just a rundown, and then I kind of will tell you why I think it's kind of scary. But SB 382 appropriates $2 million from the general fund to create the California Mosquito Surveillance and Research Program, with $1,500,000 to be specifically appropriated to the fund to fund the California Vector-Borne Disease Surveillance System, which is tasked with monitoring and researching the threat of mosquito-transmitted diseases and the best method for the abatement of nuisance mosquitoes. Section 1, Chapter 2, 201, Sections B5 of SB 382 enables the California Mosquito Surveillance and Research Programs, CalSurv, to, and this is what it says, perform other duties as necessary to protect the public and agricultural health of the state. The language in this section is broad and unnecessary and leaves the door wide open for any and all abandonment measures to be taken. Inclusion of broad language has the potential to result in far-reaching implementation of policies outside the intent of this bill and may require future legislation to redefine the original role and intent of the program. The unrestricted authority is not in the best interest of the safety of our families, our children, our agriculture, or our state. We oppose SB 382 unless Sections B and Sections 5 are removed. And as a parent with 2 kiddos who not only have autism, that's one of the diagnoses, but they have autoimmune disorders, they have metabolic disorders, they have, severe allergies and asthma. When you give an open book to spray whatever you want, it affects our kids, or at least my kids. And I know a lot of clients of the Regional Center who have a disability also have other medical diagnoses and other problems. So I'm also asking the board to please let the state know to fix that. It cannot be an open book for them to bug spray us however they want. And just a little thing about SB 18. What concerns me about that, and I'll give an example of my daughter. She's 13. About 2 years ago, she was having these aggressive, horrible meltdowns, tantrums, beating people up, throwing things at anybody, biting, anything. And when I took her to her doctor and I saw her psychiatrist, they immediately just wanted to put her on antipsychotics. And that's it. Here's the antipsychotic. Here's the script. It's easy. They do it so easily that it really scared me. And this is the kind of cookie cutter medicine that is being practiced on our kiddos with disabilities. I didn't take it because I knew it wasn't just a random thing. I went with an alternative doctor. I went to find and pay out of pocket because obviously he didn't take my insurance, so I had to pay out of pocket, run the blood work, and hey, it's not her autism. Her insulin levels were off the charts, making her testosterone levels go incredibly insane. She had testosterone levels of an 18-year-old, and she was only then 11. And that doctor was like, no, she doesn't need antipsychotics. Let's treat this medical problem that she's having. And immediately started medication to lower her insulin. And lowering her insulin, lowering her testosterone, and now she's a happy 13-year-old. So if it's something like SB 18, or if that doctor would turn around and say, well, this mom is not wanting to accept my treatment, I think she's putting your daughter in danger, they can take away my kid because I didn't want to give them medicine that you wanted me to give them. So that kind of is difficult for all of us in the special needs community when our kids are not just the symptoms of their disability. They have other things. So please just take a look at it. It's very broad, and it will not affect just the typical kids or somebody or a home who has legal gun owners or whatever, but especially the clients of the regional center. Thank you.